Welcome everyone to the March koha-US General Meeting. Jennifer, can you post the agenda if you've got it? If not, I can do that.
Already there.
Already there, wonderful.
You already did it.
Wonderful. Okay, so any announcements?
So I want to let everybody know that I've made some, I'm going to say mild changes to the website so that you'll be more impressed. So let me share my screen real fast, just so that no one gets lost, because it did change the navigation a little bit. So as part of the education committee, we've talked about kind of refreshing the website a little bit. So the top nav menu has changed and things may live in a little bit of a different place. We've changed our buzzwords a little bit from collaborate to share and unite to join, and then added consistency up here. So if you can't find something, the goal is to make things easier to find. So you should be able to find things better from those top menus. And then I'm also working, these changes haven't been pushed out yet, but they should be soon, on a little bit of a revamp on and redesign on the learn page. And we're kind of breaking things off a little bit. So if you can't find something on the website, feel free to contact me, because I probably hid it away into oblivion, and that's my bad.
Looks really good.
Wonderful.
Any other announcements? Okay, so we have Jesse and Elise here from ByWater, and we're going to talk about the Koha Community Challenge 2022.
Awesome. So thank you for having us. So we are bringing back the Koha Community Challenge. If you aren't aware, we did this last year. It was something that we did for the whole Koha community, or even people that aren't involved. It's just a way to get family members involved and just to raise awareness of what the open source community does. So I'll go ahead and share a link in the chat. Last year, we raised just over $1,800. So we're hoping to surpass that goal this year. And we're doing it once again through Run Sign Up. So it's the same process as last year. It's super easy. And any type of fitness counts, right? So it's not just running. We do have a lot of marathon runners, Jay-Z, but we know not everybody is a marathon runner. So hula hooping, whatever, aerobics, anything you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and share the link. Jesse, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
We already have 16 people that are signed up, and an email just went out to all past participants. So we're excited, and we're really just excited to kind of blow last year's numbers out of the water. So thanks for being a part of it again this year and letting us host it and join together. In fact, John, I think money already transferred. I saw an email yesterday that some came already over for the people that registered early.
And usually I get an email from them. I haven't gotten it yet, but I'll log into the account and check.
Thanks.
So yeah, this is a really great opportunity, a great fundraiser. This was started by ByWater. We're so thankful for them to, come up with this and put the money back into Koha so it benefits everybody. So yeah, sign up. I think last year, I can't remember, there were like maybe 50 participants or something.
It was a little upwards of 60.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, it might have been 69. 69 might have been the number of participants plus donors, but it was right around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can, you can participate by yourself, you can join a team, you can challenge, we could pit libraries against each other and, challenge and see who comes out on top, whatever. So yeah, a really fun opportunity. And any other questions about that? It starts, you can sign up now, but it starts April 1st and runs the whole month of April.
Well, if it
Okay.
had been last week, I could have put cleaning out my basement on it. Definitely an aerobic activity, and I'm really sore from it.
Okay, so our next topic is the 2022 conference site location vote. So we sent out the voting survey to the current koha-US members. And we had, I think 34 invitations were sent out, 31 were opened. We had 28 votes. 22 voted for a hybrid on-site in-person / online conference in Lawrence, Kansas. And 6 voted for online only. So we're going to Lawrence, Kansas this year. Then
Except for 6 people. 6 people are going to attend online.
yeah. So then, because we were already planning our koha-US conference, during that period of time, we were contacted from other koha members that were chatting on the IRC about, wouldn't koha-US maybe like to host the KohaCon this year? So we put in a bid on the KohaCon wiki website or whatever it is. We put our proposal there. And so we're planning on, I don't know if it's going to be, we're incorporating KohaCon into our koha-US conference. So are we still calling it koha-US? Is it KohaCon hosted by koha-US? I don't really know exactly, but we'll work that out in the conference committee. But it's become the larger international conference, which is exciting.
Yippee.
So yeah, we've got a lot to work out in the conference committee. Because this is an international conference, we would expect that perhaps we'll get a lot more people attending than a regular koha-US conference. So I think maybe the conference committee could use some additional volunteers. So this would be a really great opportunity for you to get involved in a koha-US activity and contribute. There's going to be lots to do, I think. I've never done a conference before, but I assume it takes a lot of work.
One of the things I was going to say is I'm going to bring this up with the conference committee. When I went to the IRC meeting last week, the venue that we had proposed for this conference is probably not going to be big enough for an international KohaCon. So I'm proposing to the conference committee today that we send out just a survey to the general, to the koha-US members, the koha-US general list and the community list, to get a rough idea of how many people will come. And it's a rough idea, it's an early idea, but if we get 300 people that say they want to come, then the venue that we've already selected is too small. We were kind of at the limit, just thinking about McKinney, that's kind of about the limit, the number of people that showed up at McKinney at the venue that we had selected. So it's very likely we're going to need to select another venue. NEKLS has already absorbed the cost of what the venue would be, and my boss is not against moving that money from Lawrence Public Library to a different venue, but a different venue is going to cost more money. So that's something that we need to work on. Will be if we have to change venues, it's going to cost a little bit more probably to put the conference on here in Lawrence. But the conference committee will talk about that, and I've already started. I've got a first draft of a survey to go out to the Koha community. And we're going to work on that at the conference committee today. So don't be surprised if you see another survey from us saying, are you going to come? which days you're going to come, and that kind of thing, so we can just get a really rough idea of how many people will show up for the conference. So.
And we've also talked about how in seeking a different venue, it could be where we need the bigger venue for the first 2 days of the presentations, and perhaps we would still be able to do Lawrence Public Library for the Hackfest workshop part. So we've got, lots of different ways we could end up configuring this. And I didn't mention the dates. The dates are September 20th through 23rd. And then I think we're going to be talking about, since this is now a Koha-Con conference, about whether we would have like a cultural activities day, perhaps on the day before the conference starts or at the end of the conference. So I think we've got that on our survey also to see, would you be interested in staying an additional day on the beginning or the end for like a cultural activities, because that's usually part of a Koha-Con, I understand. Anything else about the upcoming conference? Anybody want to volunteer to help us out on the conference committee? You could volunteer one of your coworkers.
The conference committee meets right after this meeting, so if you want to be part of that, all you got to do is stick around.
Yeah. Okay. Next is any bug discussion that anybody wants to bring up?
I've got a topic.
Wonderful.
Surprise, surprise. Let me pull up my notes here real quick, because I have some good detailed notes on this one. It's not necessarily a bug yet. I'm researching something as to which direction to go and trying to get some feelers on this. Basically, let me just frame this out as to what's going on. When we went fine free a while back, we lost the capability of using a system preference. It was called no issues charge. Basically, we have that preference in the system where you can set a value, and if patrons have racked up X amount of fines, it puts a block on checking out that I believe, if I can remember correctly, that far back, allowed you to override. You could still check out, but it was an attention getter on checkouts. And that was a good control, but when we went fine free, that became rather useless. Now it just kind of it keeps going until they hit the long overdue fine, and then that blocks them from checking out. We've tried various things. We've tried the overdues block cert preference, which did kind of what we wanted to do, but if patrons put things in the book drop and wanted to check out more items, we either had to find every item in the book drop and check it in, or we had to override every single item being checked out. So that made things very difficult. So then we tried, we dropped that control and we tried using the override, or excuse me, the overdue restrictions, where we would trigger an overdue restriction with the first notice that goes out 7 days after things are due. And that worked well because you only had to override it once. But the drawback with that is it blocks absolutely everything. Patrons can't place holds, they can't renew online. It just really stops them dead in their tracks, and that was a little too restrictive. It worked well. I mean, there was the auto remove overrides restrictions control that would automatically remove that restriction if they checked those items back in. But right now, our consortium has opted to turn that off. And so we're not catching those unless we're paying attention to it. And so it doesn't stop patrons at the self-check or anything. And so we wanted to find a better balance. The question that I have and wanted to kind of get a feel for this from the group is what people think might be a better approach. There's two approaches that we could take to looking at an enhancement for this to help those of us without fines. One way that we could change this is to enhance the no issues charge so it blocks with selected statuses in addition to a fine. So you could define a fine amount that would stop the issues or watch for other statuses. So that's one approach, you know. So like if they have overdues, it would do the exact same thing as if they had hit that $3 mark or whatever mark that you've set in that rule. The other approach is to enhance the overdue restrictions feature so we can set how restrictive it is. Does it block self-check? Does it block holds? Does it block renewals? Does it block zip authentication, et cetera, et cetera? So those are two different approaches that we could take it, an enhancement that our library might look at funding. But I wanted to get the feel from a group. What do you think might be the best approach? Should we enhance the no issues charge preference, or should we seek to set, you know, what kind of restrictions can be placed with the overdue restrictions?
I think the most flexible way would be, you know, when I opened up the overdue notice status triggers, and you know the box that's there to check is just says restrict. So maybe if there were more options than just restrict, I think that might be the most flexible way to go forward, because there's a ton of flexibility with those overdue actions with the notice status triggers. If there was a way you could say, you know, instead of restrict, if there could also be a warn, or if there could be a block circ, you know, if there could be more flexibility in those restrictions. Because the thing I like about that is, you know, you have the overdue notice status triggers applied, you know, can be applied per library and per patron category. So there's a lot more flexibility there than just a global system preference. And I think that would be an easier way to deal with it with my libraries, because I think some of them would want a full-on restriction and some of them might want something more gentle, like what you're talking about. So that, I think, offers the most opportunity for flexibility.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that would be really great. I know we actually, so that we didn't have the same problem as much, we changed it so our first notice for the whole consortium goes out at 3 days. No, at 1 day. Our first notice goes out at 1 day. That sounds wrong. I thought we had changed that. I thought it was 3 days, but now it's looking like it's 1 day. And it says at 5 days overdue, you're going to get restricted. And then at 5 days is when the restriction happens. And so that means that, you know, if someone is, you know, has put it in the book drop over the weekend or that day, as long as they haven't been restricted yet, you know, they get that warning for email and text messages at least. The print one might not get to them before they get restricted, but we are trying to encourage everyone to do text or email. And a lot of the libraries actually don't even print things anymore here. They just say, if you don't put in a phone or email, you're not going to get notices until an item's lost. So And we found that that mostly works pretty well for us because most people, when they get the overdue notice, they'll bring it back before they get restricted.
Okay.
It seems like at least the people who come in with any frequency or might complain about not being able to place holds or renew online all seem to be pretty good about just returning it if they get the first notice before the second one hits them.
Great. Anyone else feedback or doing something different with their fines-free situations?
Our setup is basically the same as Lizette for our fine freeze. They're generally restricting with the overdue notices much sooner than the long overdue restriction gets placed.
That's a good idea. I'll talk about that with our consortium and see what they think of that. But yeah, I appreciate the feedback.
Any other bugs that people want to bring up and talk about?
Usually we run out of time to talk about bugs. Now we got plenty of time. Nobody's
Yeah.
saying anything.
Here's your chance.
Well, usually we go through the committee reports first. That eats up a lot of time.
Well, we can go to committee reports, and while we're going through those, you can think about other bugs that you might want to bring up.
Well, I have something that's not a bug, but sort of strange. And I don't have anything specific yet, so I'll just put it out as a very, very general question. Let's say I do an advanced search on an item type, and I get, say, 10,000 hits. But then I run an SQL report for that item type, and I get 8,000. Is that kind of discrepancy common, happens all the time, or do I have a puzzle on my hands?
It could be that you've got some item types where the 942, the item type in the 942 doesn't match the item type in the 952. That would be my first guess.
I would guess the same thing, Fred.
Okay, I'll check it out. And next month, may have a puzzle or I may have a solution. Thanks.
And I've got a report somewhere. It's not a hard report to write to get a list of what's in the 942. Item type, I think, is, I want to say 942C. You could write a report for that item type, or you could look at your koha to mark mapping and figure out which field in biblio or biblio items you've got it mapped to, and then track them down that way. So
yeah, 942C. It's also the author's catalog, which has all sorts of weird non-standard things, but I don't think that is what is doing it. And again, not a bug, but another puzzle. I figured out how to get an image on the OPAC when it's linked to a specific bib record. Still puzzling about how to get an image that is stored on the server but is not a bib record. And I was looking at NEKLS, the KOA homepage. Let's see, I think it's women's history. Seems to have changed since a couple of weeks ago.
there's a new picture every week.
No, I mean the URL.
Oh, the URL?
Yeah.
Yeah, might have. I don't know. I don't manage that.
Okay.
I have somebody else that's putting the pictures there. But we asked ByWater set it up so that we have a image directory that we upload files to. And
Yep.
ByWater took care of all of that. I have no idea how to set that up on the back end. That was something that I think Liz set up for us. And so that would be a question for Liz or Kyle, which of course you don't have access to. So, but there is a way to set up directory so that when you're uploading, you choose a category from a drop down.
Yep. Did that.
And I don't know how to set that up though.
Okay.
But that's how we store the files, is we upload them and we put them in the image directory, and then they become linkable. So
Okay, I took last week off to work on house stuff, so haven't done this a week and a half. So of course I've forgotten everything. I'll pursue it. Thanks.
Okay, so we've really kind of already talked about conference things, and we'll get into the details of it in the committee after this meeting. Christopher, Development Committee update.
Yeah, before I get into that, I just threw a couple links in there for a couple bugs. We don't have to talk about them, but I would appreciate others taking a look and commenting on that, because there are two topics that are pretty strong right now, and I've provided some detail on both of those for consideration. So if anybody has any comments to add to those, or a different vision or different direction that they'd like to see those go in, feel free to add to those. As far as development goes, the current development for the patron being able to delete their messages once they've seen them, that patch has been written. It has been added to the bug, and QA has reviewed it, and they wrote back some comments that we're waiting for the developers to work on. So it is mostly there. We are working through some issues with the developer. I'm not going to go into detail here at this meeting, but we are trying to move forward and get this completed. But the patch has pretty much been written and done. The development team looked at it. We liked what we saw. It works exactly the way we expected, and I think it's going to bring some great functionality to messaging with the patrons. So we're still on track. We're the ball's in the developer's court right now to finish up the QA requests, and then we can move forward. And also an update, last year's development for retaining descriptions in I think it's is it Lisette, remind me, because I didn't work on this very much. Is it descriptions kept in the accounts?
Outlines description. It looks like the bug, I think, is just for when fines are added, is what it looks like. I saw Andrew had put together a video of how it works.
So yeah, he demoed that. Several of us reviewed it. I signed off on it, and I told them to, because George was the first one to speak up on it, I told them to sign off in George's name too, but I hadn't seen that. But anyways, it's signed off and moving forward. So we're glad to see that one finally come forward, and we'll see how it does with the Q&A. I don't think it's passed or gone through QA yet. The last time I looked at it. So that's it for the development team. Oh, no, one other thing. We are going to be at our next development team meeting. We're going to be talking about contracts. ByWater sent us some valuable information, and we're going to be looking over some details with the contracts. I wasn't involved with the whole contract process, and we had a few snags that we had to get through with this current development, but we're reviewing what we need to have in our contracts to go a little smoother the next time around. So that's one big thing that we're going to be working on at the next meeting.
Any questions about development committee? Okay, so next we have education committee, and I know that Christopher did want to talk about because the education committee has revamped how we're doing the mentorship program, and we're now calling it koha-SEKLS collaborators, I think. And you want to talk about that, Christopher?
Yeah, we are redoing the way that we've looked at mentorship. Mentorship was kind of a one-on-one connection idea that we had from the get-go with koha-US. We wanted to be able to connect people with other people, but it was an idea that just kind of flailed a bit. It didn't really take off or go anywhere, or was very productive. And so we retooled the idea of mentorship, and we've changed it into the koha-US skill collaborators. And what it's going to end up looking like is we're going to be polling the current members, and then any new members through the membership form. We're going to be finding out what skills our members are confident in, what they feel like they know really well and are willing to answer questions about. So what we'll do is we'll end up in our webpage where we're going to have a page for our members that will list members that want to be skill collaborators and list what their strengths are. So if you have a question about circulation, you can go through the list and see who listed circulation as their strength, or if they feel like their strength is admin. If you're looking for somebody like that, you can look through the list and see who's strong with admin skills, and you can contact them directly. So this takes the responsibility of people meeting up, in general, or somebody being linked up with another person asking questions that the other person doesn't know. This revamps it a bit so that we are connecting people with those that know more about specific areas that are more likely to be able to answer questions. So that's what we're doing. I'm trying to connect with John on working on the membership form, because I've been tinkering around with a new method for doing our membership form that links the lists that we get from those questions and creates the list that we need without us having to do a bunch of footwork behind the scenes. So we're going to be working on that. And John, I need to get together with you ASAP on that so we can move forward on that. But that's where we are with that, and I'm excited about this. I think this will get us some more traction where we didn't have it before.
I will add to this that the changes Christopher has made and the functionality that he discovered, or at the very least introduced to me as somebody that doesn't know a lot about WordPress, really looks like it's going to help us get to where we want to go. And Christopher's done a great job in terms of taking what we've been using for membership probably since 2019, the first year of renewals, as it were, and has done a really nice job in terms of taking what we've done in Google Forms and transporting it over to WordPress. And I think everybody that will choose to participate in this will really like it.
Okay, so more education committee things. Anybody else? George is chair. What do you have to say?
Well, there's a link to the notes from the last meeting in the chat box. We, at the first education committee meeting of the year, we talked about dividing our time between reorganizing the website and coming up with content for the website. So Jason and Lauren have been working on the website, and Jason talked about that a little bit and about the changes to the website. Christopher talked about the koha skills collaborators. Then we've just kind of been talking about what other kinds of content do we want to add. At one point, Jesse at ByWater had talked about seeing if one of her colleagues could do like a talk about Git and GitHub and how that works. And I'm supposed to reach out to her and see if she's still up to finding somebody to do that. So this seems like a perfect opportunity to remind Jesse that that was out there.
I can ping the guys and ask them.
Okay. And then Fred and Lauren are working on a project about, converting mark data from spreadsheets into Koha data with MarkEdit. And so we've got a few videos and ideas going on and things that we're going to do in the future. And then that was kind of the whole meeting, was discussing those two areas. I am not going to be at the next meeting, and Christopher is volunteered to step in and share that, which will be next Wednesday at I think the same time as this meeting, right? Yeah, 10:30 Central. So I won't be at that meeting, but Christopher's going to chair that. So that's all from the Education Committee.
Any questions for the Education Committee? Okay, we can move on to Finance. John.
The Finance Committee report, thanks to Jennifer, is attached. As of the end of last month, we had 34 members in good standing. And as always, if you think you are a member, but you don't know for sure, you can always write me, treasurer@koha-US.org, and I can always provide you with that answer. If you take a look at the 2 months worth of financial reports, we did renew our Zoom room back in January. So we're good through January of 2023 with that. And that did also include the administrative fee to TechSoup. For February, most of the income you see there was related to the transfer from PayPal of memberships for 2022. The $1,100 you see in expenses is actually the payment for the ALA exhibition space. That actually did not clear. So you'll see that again in the March reports. And our PayPal balance as of the end of February is $118. Like I mentioned, we did put in our formal application and payment for exhibit space along with a location preference. I do await confirmation of our selected location and of next steps. Because we had submitted for space in 2020 and again in 2021, the process for renewing our space, even though we'd never actually used it, was actually pretty smooth and efficient. For those that are going to ALA and may be interested in staffing our little table in the exhibits hall, exhibits run from Friday, June 24th through Monday, June 27th. And if you are attending ALA, I hope you will be able to find the time to spend 1 or 2 hours at the booth. Our demonstration instance will be used at the booth, and we will have stickers and membership brochures to hand out. As always, the Finance Committee is looking for new members. If you're interested in serving, please contact me at treasurer@koha-US.org. Any questions from anybody? If there's nothing, that's it from the Finance Committee.
And we still do not have an active fundraising committee. If anybody wants to volunteer to take that over, that would be great. And so now we've got about 20 minutes or so still. We can talk about bugs. You don't even have to think about it as a bug. Maybe it's just an issue or a problem you're encountering and you've got questions. Anybody have anything?
I can share. Yesterday at the sysadmin SIG meeting, I had shared a problem where I wanted to show the public nodes on the holds queue, and I had solved that using a report, but I really wanted to get that working with the API. And I was able to figure that out. So I'll just share my little code. It's in my GitHub. So if anybody wants to see how that works, I found a little nugget of jQuery gold that lets you take the barcode off of the holds queue, request the item data, and then pull the public note back into the holds queue. It's a little slow, but it works. And I can share my screen to show you what that looks like. So this is my holds queue. The red notes are being pulled into the holds queue from the barcode using the API. If I reload it, you can see I added a little spinner in there because it does take a minute, and it's not synchronous. So you can see things pop in as they get retrieved. So in case anybody else needs something like that, for us, it was we have awards information stored in that field. So like it'll say it's in the juvenile fiction section, but it's actually sitting on a totally different shelf. And then I have people wandering around the library looking for the book because they didn't realize it was on the award shelf. So really I could solve that with the new shelf location, but this was more fun.
Anybody else have issues, bugs?
I threw another bug in there. This is something that was mentioned through Slack, and I've run into it in random spots. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. If they have, please contribute to this this bug. Add your 2 cents on it. And I've done some sleuthing on it to try and figure more out, but the actual cause I don't know exactly. Basically, Koha has introduced some new drop-down controls, something called select to. Instead of loading all libraries, this was particularly for holds. Instead of loading all libraries in the pickup location drop-downs, it lists the one that is selected, and if you click on it, it will load another control with all of the possible options from the list. The problem that's been cropping up on occasion for us, I work mostly in Chrome, and when I go into the admin controls, I haven't seen this so much in the pickup locations, but in the admin controls, where some of those controls are using the select to. Occasionally I will see one of those that is shrunk down to nothing but a line. It looks like it's not there at all. And if I open up that same page in Firefox, it looks just fine. If I open up that same page in Chrome on our test server, it looks just fine. So it's very, very random. I think it's a performance-based issue. I've seen somebody in Select mention that they see it, but they're having a problem on their test server, not their production server. And it's generally in the same places. It's in the controls in the admin, not necessarily pickup locations. But what I dug a little bit into the code, and I was noticing that the width on that control where it was having the problem was set to 2.22222%. And if I change that with CSS to a fixed width, it looked just fine. My assumption is that it is basing the width when it's creating that control. It's basing the width on information that's supposed to be in that control box. And in some cases where it loads so fast, there's no data in there for it to base the width off of, and so it's shrunk down to absolutely, small. There was another bug out there that I think may have either contributed to this issue or helped it. I can't remember the bug that it was. Let me see. I think I mentioned the bug in this bug. I said I was suspect of bug 28611. They had made some adjustments to the select. I don't know if it caused this issue or if it, didn't really touch this issue, but I do suspect a performance issue with this, where the page loads too fast and it doesn't have anything to work with, and that's why those are getting squashed. And I see that Katrin's already asking if I have an example. I've had other people look at the exact same page that I deal with, and they don't see it on their end. They're using the same version of Chrome that I am. I honestly think it has something to do with performance, either how fast the page is loading or bandwidth or something, for it to cause that difference, from another location looking at the exact same server on the exact same page. But I can consistently see it on my end. So I can't say that what I suspect is gospel truth on this, but if anybody else has any insight or they have examples that they've run into, if you can contribute to this page, it will help us build a case as to there is a problem, and we might be able to narrow it down better with more examples.
Now I have seen that problem, and I know that it occurred before this release. I don't know when, but I believe I remember I had a ticket on it with ByWater, and I eventually did what you talked about. I just widened it with some CSS, and it is, yeah, I agree. It's kind of fleeting. You see it here or there, and it's not consistent.
Can you tell us exactly which page you're looking at, Christopher? Just where you see it consistently?
I see it really consistently in the circ preferences, system preferences.
I'd have to, I can update the bug. I have to respond to Katrin's request anyways, so I'll update the bug with that. Because I'll have to turn off that, because I just did a blanket select to catch any other controls that might be affected that I wasn't seeing necessarily. So I'll turn that off, and then I'll look around and make sure I specify which one we're specifically seeing consistently.
I'm also just going through the system preferences on our test server where it happens on all of them all the time. Anything that has a select, and I'm just copying all of those to put on the button.
Well, that's certainly an interesting one. Who else has something?
Well, if no one else does, I am trying to set up a Z3950 server on my medical library. And as far as I know, it is set up exactly the same way that my test site cheerfulvalleypl.online is set up. It works on Cheerful Valley, but not medical library. Does anybody know of a program that will compare two files and show you where the differences are? Sort of like a modern Hinman collator. Word can compare files, but it didn't really work for me. All I want to know is, highlight this character in this position in this file is different from this character in this position in this file.
I think Emacs will do that, and
Oh yeah.
it might be a plugin, it might be an add-on you have to put in there, but I know that it'll do that. So
I think I've used Notepad++ for that too.
yeah,
It has a diff
I bet
checker.
it would.
Thank you.
A couple of years ago, you had me look at a report of yours that wasn't working right, And the issue wasn't that it was the report. The issue was that it was your hospital's firewall. And so that would be my suspicion with your library. If you can get it to work on one system, is your Happy Valley whatever test server on the same network as your author's catalog?
Sort of. They're both being run by DigitalOcean, and I did
Oh, okay.
disconnect from the VPN at home, so I wasn't going through the hospital network.
That
And I
would be
also-
my suspicion. Is your hospital network? You don't think it is? Okay.
No, because I wasn't using it, and I do have UFW enabled on the library, medical library catalog, but I disabled it for this particular attempt. Getting stranger and stranger. Maybe by next month I'll have everything sorted out and I can tell you solution to all my problems. Except for the dog who needs an MRI, but that's not.
Well, I do have a question for ByWater people. Is there a time set yet for the 2111 upgrades?
I think Barbara, at our last meeting, April or May will be the rollout for early adopters. June will be the upgrade webinars. And then I think late June will be the rollout. I can find out for sure what they are, but I think that's where we're aiming for.
I've got another bug for the group.
Sure.
So we noticed this last week after the latest patch was put out, 0.09. This permission, modify holds priority permission, was affected in the last patch. They were tightening up some security and inadvertently crippled this particular permission. Basically, we have staff that can set holds for patrons and whatnot, but we specifically don't set this permission for the staff. We don't want them adjusting the holds priority, and we had several staff that were abusing that, so that's why we turned this particular thing off. But with the latest patch, they weren't able to modify pickup locations in the holds either. And so we found a bug, and we found out through trial and error that we had to turn this setting on. Basically, they had to have all permissions for holds in order to do anything with holds after the hold was created. So a bug has been created for this issue. If you want to keep track of it there, it's been created and signed off, but they're having discussion about some things further on this. But I wanted everybody to be aware of that. This was something that just happened a week ago, and you may or may not be affected depending on how you set your permissions for your staff.
Yeah, Christopher had told me about this, and this was a problem that started for us with, it used to be in Koha, you could change the pickup location from the, you'd go to the title and then click on holds, and you could change the pickup location there. And then a few versions ago, quite a few versions ago, that changing the pickup location became an option on the borrower's record. You could go in and change the pickup location there. And it's the same situation there as where you can't, if you don't have modify holds permission, you can change it if you go to the item, but you can't change the pickup location if you're on the borrower's record. And I can't find the bug that I opened for that, but I don't think it's ever been fixed. But you know, it never got any traction because I don't think there are a lot of people that have that are using those two separate permissions. And so eventually what I did is I just, since nobody was doing anything about it, I just took away those controls from our staff so that they don't see the up and down arrows, or they don't have the ability to modify holds priority, because I just use jQuery to take those controls off of the page. So if I find that bug, I'll stick it in here. I'm looking for it right now.
Change priority. Nobody can do that.
Yeah, it was something, it was taken, that permission was taken away from everybody here when there was that issue quite a long time ago, like about 7 or 8 years ago. There was an issue where the holds queue was being scrambled. Every time a hold was filled, they weren't filling in the right order. And it was a bug that only lasted a couple of months, but one of my predecessors took that permission away from everybody at that time. And all of a sudden, holds stopped getting rearranged by staff. And it's like, you know, if things are filling in the right order now, maybe more people were abusing this than we thought were abusing this. So
That
it was
feature doesn't
disabled.
exist anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I've told people.
Okay, so we're at the hour mark. So our next general meeting is, looks like April 13th. So hope you can join us then, or somewhere on a SIG meeting or whatever before then. And for whoever wants to stay for the conference committee meeting, we'll go into that. And I guess if nothing else, we can go ahead and stop the recording. Everybody have a great day.